It's Wednesday, March 24th. This is The Street Live. I'm Katherine Ross, and I am joined by Jim Cramer. Jim, what are you watching the markets today? Because we're seeing the Dow get kind of a bump right now.
Well, this is this is what I said on Monday. What I said was that when we got a rally, it was a false rally. It wouldn't hold because I think interest rates are going higher. Then interest rates dropped because oil dropped, okay? But now oil's going up even though we had an inventories number that was high. It's not impacting the price of oil. Oil then, the whole market keys off of oil. We've seen this before. So interest rates are still going higher. When interest rates go higher, people buy the industrials and they sell tech and they sell what I would describe as being the plain old stocks that nobody really seems to want these days. General Mills. I mean, look at that. General Mills wasn't that bad. Down big. So we're in a situation that's exactly what I said, which is that the trend of industrials is your friend. But the trend away from that isn't. It's interesting in some stocks. You can take a stock like DuPont. I mean, DuPont is flying. Said nothing. But Disney, which is regarded, I don't know why Disney's not up because it's got some cyclical aspects. But Disney's down big even though there's good news. And the stock I'd call, that has been the key to this market the whole time is Caterpillar. And if you look at Caterpillar, it is just scorching. But nothing has happened at Caterpillar. So that makes me deeply suspicious that this is all rotational. But sometimes rotationals, Catherine, are more powerful than news.
I mean, you're right on Caterpillar, Jim. It's up to 226 per share, about 3.7% as of 10:43 a.m. Jim, I want to turn our attention. We can get back to stocks in a minute, but I do want to turn our attention to NFTs because the Time auction is still ongoing. We talked about this on Monday. These Time magazine covers.
Don't use any of these acronyms or abbreviations because people are watching and they're not sure what we're talking about.
So NFT is a non-fungible token, and it's basically the new way to get digital collectibles. Think about when you grew up with baseball cards. This is kind of like for maybe Gen Z. It's the new kind of baseball card in a way. You don't have to have a physical copy of an artwork anymore.
Right. Okay. So go ahead. I'm bidding on Is God Dead?
Now, which currently has. And just so our viewers are aware, we've got 10 hours left in this auction. The highest bid on Is God Dead is currently 10 Ethereum, which roughly translates to about $17,800 in US dollars. Jim, what makes you want to buy an NFT?
Well, I am in there trying to put my bid in for 11 Ethereum. And what we're doing, just so you know, is there's a process that you have described, Catherine, to everyone, because you have become my expert on NFTs. So why don't, even though it'll just make it so there are more people who are bidding against me, I presume, but why don't you walk us through? Because my CFO, Noreen Shevlin, is doing what you're describing to do.
So in order to bid, you have to have a crypto wallet, meaning that you have to have a wallet that holds, in this case, Ethereum, because that's what you're going to be using to.
I have that.
So you buy the Ethereum, and then from there you can go ahead onto, and this is specifically for the Time magazine, because again, there's a lot of NFT marketplaces that have different auctions, but specifically for Time, you can go onto superrare.co. And from there, if you have a crypto wallet set up and you've got Ethereum, or you want to buy Ethereum, you can, and then you can place a bid through Super Rare for these NFT covers. There's the Is God Dead, Is Fiat Dead, Is Truth Dead are the three covers available.
All right, so what will I get if I win?
You're going to own the rights to Is God Dead, the iconic Time cover.
And I can use it and do whatever I want with it.
You own it, yes. I can still download it though, Jim. That's the catch. So you own it, and you have those rights, but I can still download that cover and use it as a screensaver.
I don't get any money if you download it.
No.
And that's the problem. I mean, the reason why I've been skeptical on this is that what do I really own? I own the original that people can basically make a copy of without paying me. So I own a Rothko, and you can make a copy of Rothko. But I will own the original. It's not actually the original in this particular case. They
True,
had to do
because
things, apparently.
yeah, because it's digital now. And that's the other problem, Jim, is because where's the regulation? I mean, this I could see NFTs really taking off if we get more regulation, but at this point it's just so new that there's just so many questions. And I talked about this with Dan Roberts, who's the EIC of Decrypt, which is a great site if you're looking to kind of understand crypto better. That's where I've started to learn a lot more about crypto. So it's definitely regulation is kind of the name of the game, at least in my eyes at this point.
So you might ask, why am I bidding for this? Well, first of all, I work for Time Magazine, and I had a great run. I absolutely loved it. I worked for Walter Isaacson, for Kurt Anderson. It was just joy. I have always felt near and dear to Time. I always remember this cover as being the cover that we discussed at home, because we all believed in God. Not agnostic. Is God dead? I mean, it was a terrible time in the country. And this came out, and we're like, wow. My father, because we got Time Magazine, my father said, we got to talk about this around the dinner table. Then, of course, my father told me it's not true. And, we were, I did not discuss this again until my mom got sick. And I was, I did something that it's personal stuff, but I prayed every day and went to temple and really felt that it would somehow impact. And that's not the way, if you believe in the Bible, that religion works. But you just kind of, when your mother's dying of kidney cancer, which is now, by the way, a solvable cancer, at least for some time, you just, you're praying, and you started thinking in November 11th of 1985, is God dead? And so it was iconic, but it was also personal for me. So I won it. Now, the problem, of course, is that other people are bidding. And who knows, maybe one day this thing, I'm not buying it in order to make $100,000. I'm buying it because I think this is the most iconic thing I've seen offered, and because it's personal. So I like the rights to it, but I don't have them yet. And let's see what happens. There are other people who are bidding, obviously. But one of the things that you're right about, regulation, I mean, no one even knows that this thing is going on, or I'm trying to get the word out. But at the same time, it's a little self-defeating, because if I get the word out, someone else is going to have some personal tie to this and say, all right, I'm going to beat Cramer. But whatever. I enjoy it, and I love Time. And when I worked at Time, it was one of the great points of my life. And I was very proud of it. And then I went to New York Magazine. I wrote for New York Magazine for years and years and years. And a lot of what I did was my principal outlet for writing until the Time Magazine, until I started TheStreet.
Well, and Jim, I mean, I'll personally be rooting for you, but I think that I appreciate the conversations that we're able to have around this, because I do think that NFTs, they're just so new that it's kind of like a hot thing to talk about right now. But for you and I, because we pay so much attention to education and financial literacy, I think that this is an ongoing conversation that we can continue to have, even when the Time Magazine cover auction ends, to continue to kind of educate and maybe push for regulation.
Okay, so here's what I've just done. All right, I purchased 11.02 Ethereum. All right, because I have a digital wallet. And what I'm going to do is send you that. I'm going to send our contacts at Time Magazine this, because I want them to know that I'm actually doing this, and because they're very gracious to us. And as usual, everything here is real time. And Katherine, I'm CCing you, okay? So you'll know that I'm doing this. And again, a lot of what we do here, whether we're talking about action alerts or whether we're doing this, is to just show people, listen, we're involved. I mean, it's kind of Cramer Ross, so to speak. And I'm not going to stop this and say, well, wait a second, I'll do this later. I want very much for people to know that I'm doing it. I am, just so you know, learning. Why am I being so aggressive if I'm just learning? Well, some of it is because when I was learning with my friend Pomp kind of beat me around the head. And said, look, Jim, in a very long video, not this one that's just running now, but very long video saying, look, Jim, if you understood this better, then I think you would understand why it's so valuable. And I found him very persuasive, and I immediately bought some for my kids. I remember I did it as not as a currency, because it's the same reason why I like gold. And then I came back and bought more because I kept thinking about what he said. Now I did my most recent interview with him, which is available, and this is at Pomp. And again, he's teaching me, and you're teaching me about this, and I want to learn, and I know our viewers want to learn. Now, it's true, we could just talk about oil back to 60 and what that means for the wrong FANG, Diamondback, versus the right FANG, which is the tech. And I'm happy to do that. I'm happy to point out that 3M is up 3, and you see Goldman up 4. I mean, all of these things are very predictable, and they all have to do with rates. But yeah, just in terms of just trying to diversify away from just stocks, I'm fascinated by this. There was some clown in Twitter who said the reason why I bought Bitcoin was because I was pleasing my advertisers. And I would say the reason why I bought Bitcoin was that I believed in what Pomp said. And I don't even know who our advertisers are. I mean, I haven't known them. I've been at this business for 25 years. And I don't know if they advertise. All I know is I made a lot of money. And I think that there are people endlessly, questioning my motives. And I did a very long piece for those who are doing that, explaining my motives. It was a couple of weeks ago. And a lot of people read it. And I think it changed people's minds about, what the hell I'm doing here. I mean, because a lot of it was about how, my wife, I didn't mention this, but my wife don't want me to do this anymore, for heaven's sake. A lot of people don't want me to do this anymore. I kind of do it because I think I'm helping people. So there you go.
Jim, I want to take this opportunity to kind of circle back to Bitcoin, because you mentioned your Pomp interview, which got you to buy Bitcoin. And now we have Elon Musk tweeting that people can now buy a Tesla with Bitcoin. I mean, it's so interesting to me because we've been able to see Tesla change the landscape when it comes to EV. And I'm wondering if you think that they're going to change the way that we buy cars too.
Well, I mean, look, I think that it's more of a question of critical mass. Now, Pomp would say as Bitcoin goes up, it becomes more visible and more likely that you have to play because it just gets to be, it's $1 trillion. It's certainly more of it likely to be an asset class than when it's $1 billion. But what I think it's just all of the piece. You need to see many people take it. Now, the most important voice is Square, because Square lets you buy a piece of Bitcoin. They have an option where you can buy a sliver. And a lot of people for the Cash App, which is really fabulous, are doing that. Are people going to buy Teslas with Bitcoin? I don't know. I mean, look, I this morning I had to go transfer my Bitcoin, my money, which is a Bitcoin at a wallet, digital wallet. I had to translate from Bitcoin to Ethereum, and then I translate from Ethereum, and then I put my bid in for Is God Dead. And it's like, I got to tell you, I got a lot of other things to do. But I feel that it's worth it to learn. And I'm not going to go learn about coffee futures, not going to learn about corn futures. But when it comes to this, I've got to learn. That's why I'm grateful for all my teachers. And I think that when I do learn, I will be more facile. But bring full circle back to Tesla, not enough people have learned. I mean, I said not that long ago that corporate treasurers, of which I wasn't a corporate treasurer, but I used to run the money for TheStreet. We had millions of dollars under management. I think that corporate treasurers should be considering part of their money in Bitcoin. Now, when I suggested that to John Rainey, the fantastic PayPal CFO, he said he's happy to work with PayPal, but with Bitcoin, but he didn't feel that it was something that was appropriate. And again, I think one day it will be appropriate, but it's not now. And I think that Musk is a pioneer, but others have to follow. The market's getting a little better.
Jim, you mentioned General Mills at the top of the show, and I want to take an opportunity to talk about it because it was also your mad dash. But I actually want to take a different view than we've discussed. We can discuss earnings as well, but I wanted to know if you saw all of this Twitter drama that happened yesterday around
what about shrimp?
Around the shrimp, yes.
Yeah, that was disturbing. Is one off. I mean, it's very hard. I mean, we once found a spider in a box of cereal, and we were like aghast, and we wrote, I forget which company, and they sent us a new box of cereal.
Well,
I mean, an apology.
yeah, I think the reason that I bring this up, Jim, is because we know that younger investors are really paying attention to these companies on social media. They're really paying attention to how they respond when it comes to the environment, how they respond when it comes to diversity needs. So I'm wondering, the way that Cinnamon Toast Crunch responded to Jensen Karp, who was the man who received this or who bought this box that had the shrimp tails in it.
How did they respond? Fill me in.
So alleged shrimp tails, I should say, because they're being tested. But they responded and they basically said that it may not be. They are getting tested. But Cinnamon Toast Crunch's social media account responded saying that they could just be a buildup of sugar. And the man who received the box kind of pushed back.
Shrimp tails?
Yeah, they had like we have the tweet up on the screen so people can read it at home. But it is interesting because the man pushed back and then found some other objects like a string, I think, and some weird like little granules at the bottom of the box. And so he's pushing back and he called the tweet that Cinnamon Toast Crunch sent gaslighting him. And Jim, gaslighting, yes. And the reason that I bring this up, Jim, is that is a term. Here, I'll look up the
gas bagging. What's gaslighting?
Gaslighting is a form of psychological abuse. This is off of Google. Psychological abuse where a person or group makes someone question their sanity, perception of reality, or memories.
So it's scatological almost. Gaslighting. All right. Yeah. Well, I happen to like, there was a movie Gaslight that I liked. I mean, okay, well, you learn something every day. I mean, I just learned something there. But that's just crazy. Oh, by the way, here I'm bidding him. We're getting rolling here on this Time magazine. This guy dead. I don't know about General Mills. I don't want to own it. But I've got to tell you, the moves in the industrials are just jaw-dropping. But that's, again, this whole thing. As oil goes up, the algorithms buy the industrials. As I've been saying, there's an industrial shortage. That's why I felt you had to use the meager sell-off Monday to buy industrials, which turned out to be, thank heavens, right. And the one that we suggested for Action Alert, well, you'll have to watch the video.
Exactly. And Jim, let's end our show by talking about GameStop. They did post earnings Tuesday after the bell. There are 2 points that I want to quickly focus in on here, which is the news.
Talk about Intel during our
Action Alerts Plus. Intel, and it's tied to AMD specifically, right, Jim. Exactly, so people that are interested, they should come on over. Jim, GameStop announced a new COO and a new SVP of e-commerce who is actually a former
they're making a lot of changes over there.
And they did hint at a possible share sale, which is kind of something that you've been pushing them towards.
Yeah, I don't know if they're really going to do it, but they put it out there, so now they can do it. And they talked about at the market, which means they could be offering slowly, or they could do an offering. Now, here's what I think is really interesting about this. Michael Pachter over at Wedbush is actually discussing the stock as if it were at 15, and how, because that's where it was his price target, and while he bumps his price target to the 20s. So he's not really paying attention to where the stock is, but he actually offered a lot of good reasons why he raised his price target, even though he keeps it a sell. And there's another fellow, I think it was Jeffries, that talked about how he raised his price target too. Now, here's what I know. This was an excellent quarter. The e-commerce is just sensational. I mean, I got to tell you, I was shocked at how good e-commerce was. The same-store sales I thought were fine, because you have to look at the same-store sales in February, which were extraordinary. And they're clearly taking advantage of the fact that they've got stores that they want to close, and they're closing them, de-densifying, they call it. The people they're adding are obviously very, very good. They added a person who worked at Amazon and Google. I mean, they are doing everything right, which is why it's very interesting that people were short the stock. But remember, they were shorted in the teens and in the single digits, and it clearly was worth a lot more than they were selling for. But then the question is, even though everything worked great, and the quarter really, I mean, I kept hearing that the quarter wasn't any good. Those people don't know what. mean, how can you say that? I mean, the e-commerce is so strong. You know, they're really breaking a lot of ground. The balance sheet's good. But all that together just to me means that the stock, I like the Wedbush analysis. And I know Pachter was wrong on Netflix, but I do like the idea that it's probably worth in the mid to high 20s and that's no sin. I mean, look, there's an insider who sold a lot of stock at 30. I mean, maybe it gets to 30, but it's not able to sustain 140 if they do offer stock. Should it be worth $10 billion? If it gets everything right, maybe one day it will. But what's very important is that they are doing, if you wanted to turn around a company that in retail, they are doing it perfectly. That it is just magnificent, as a matter of fact. And I completely am thrilled for what GameStop's doing. Obviously, Ryan Cohen is a visionary. But all that said, well, stock's pretty high.
All right, Jim, let's head on over to our daily rundown show over on ActionAlertsPlus.com.
All right, we're heading on over.
Come join us over there, guys. I'm Katherine Ross, and we'll see you tomorrow.